Okay. All right. So now it's recorded. I think everybody got the revised agenda today. So just quickly, I'll try to go through some of these. The SAM grant status, that was the truck, the $50,000 grant that we were awarded. And we were notified that they're not giving out the grants that they awarded. So anyway, we were all set. Brittany did a ton of work getting the truck, and then they said, oh, well, you're a little bit under. What do you want to add there? So we added a hot box, you know, because the guys thought they could really use that rather than borrow it from the city. And we kept asking for the status of it, and they, you know, we got kind of a little bit of a runaround, and then we finally got, well, we're not giving out money anymore. So even though we were told to move forward. So thankfully, we didn't actually put in the purchase order for the truck. You know, we just told them we're just waiting for the money. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen right now. Of course, if the state comes up with money, which I don't see that happening. So we'll figure it out. But anyway, we don't have the grant money for that anymore. Okay, the second item on there was the substitute pay. And the question there was, when the minimum wage goes up, the substitute LTA will be making, I think, 69 cents less than the non-certified teacher substitute. So we weren't really sure what to do with that, if we should increase that one a little bit more, just because they're so close. And it just has to do with the minimum wage increase. So that's
Say that again.
when the minimum wage goes up in January. So we'll have to increase the substitute teaching assistant to be in line with the new minimum wage.
Right.
And then once we do that, we generally don't do, you know, the jumps where, okay, you got this much from minimum wage, so everybody does that. We don't usually do that. But that when we bump up the substitute teaching assistant, they will only be 69 cents less than what we're paying a non-certified substitute teacher. So the sub LTA and the non-certified teaching substitute will be about the same rate, 69.
What's the difference between the two right now?
It's about $5.25.
A day?
Yes.
Yeah, so the daily rate used to be like 75 bucks or something for a teacher, right?
The sub teaching assistant is $76.70 right now, and the substitute teacher non-certified is $81.94.
We should bump up our LTAs. Just my recommendation.
Well,
the LTAs are getting a bump up because of the change in minimum wage. It's the non-certified subs that will be essentially
the compression issue. Yep.
Correct.
So if we increased it a little, it might help us with our substitute problem.
It might.
Of our substitutes, I know this is always in flux. Generally, how many are not certified?
That I don't know.
I mean, the majority of them are not certified.
Okay.
Weren't we presented with an option for retired teachers or certified teachers to get more at one point? Did we do anything with that, or did we table that? I forgot.
No, we did. We did something with that.
That's the certified rate, right?
Yeah, and how much is that?
The retired certified teacher is at $98, and normally they would get that class of people gets the same increase as what the OTA gets. So that's kind of how we've been working that. And then the substitute teacher certified is $92.85. So the retired teacher is, you know, more than just the certified teacher who's not a retired, but only on the teacher. And then it goes down, you know, to the $81.94 for the non-certified teacher. And then it will be, right now it's 7670 for the sub teaching assistant, but it will be 8125. So yes, we have moved forward with the retired teacher, you know, like we talked about a few years ago.
What if we went to 85 for the non-certified substitutes?
We could do that, and I think that would be a nice gesture, and that, you know, it would keep them still above the LTA sub. So that might work. And that's still below the certified teacher and the retired teacher. So I think that would be fair.
How many people sub as teachers and LTAs?
I don't know.
Not all that many, because, I mean, unless we're in dire straits, but most people, it's crazy, but they think it's not worth it to sub for an LTA. Many of our new subs,
Well, then maybe you do leave the non-certified at the same, at that lower rate, and then let them just, you know, it is the same, essentially the same.
Yeah. Or bring the LTA up to the non-certified rate and it's flat for all of them.
Well, the reality is we're probably going to be looking a little harder for subs than we have been, or certainly have more of a need for subs than we have been. And I don't know what our budget is and how much we're changing our budget here by making any adjustments at all, but it's a sizable number, because we always have district-wide 5 to 10 subs every day, don't we?
Well, and we have a huge shortage too,
Yeah.
which is probably only going to compound this year.
we have a lot of subs who are probably not going to be substituting this school year.
I mean, the online environment requirements, and then just the health concerns and whatever else, or their own kids will be home.
Yeah.
That kind of thing are all going to impact our ability to attract subs. So,
Sure.
I mean, if we made a modest adjustment, I just don't know how to quantify that, I guess, you know, relative to our budget.
You know, I don't think it's something I can predict, especially this year. We pay a lot for substitutes, probably, you know, several $100,000 up to $500,000. But I think this year is going to be a different year. So I don't know, you know, if it's going to be more or less. If people are teaching from the home environment, you know, they might be available more, the regular teachers. So.
However,
Are we doing that?
yeah, for the first 6 weeks.
No, are we allowing them to teach from home, I guess was the question. Because that was one of the things that we talked about was, you know, to help with the optics of rigorous instruction occurring and having them report to work and do the remote. So that's not going to aid those that have school-age children. So I don't know if we had reached a conclusion on that, did we?
Are the teachers coming in to work for the first 6 weeks, or are they working from home?
The expectation is that they come in. However, you know, those with underlying health concerns will get a note, and they'll work from home.
And how about those that have, you know, elementary age children?
I mean, as part of, you know, we're going to seek legal on that.
So I don't know what you
What
want.
if you, I mean, and maybe you can't do this, just had a non-certified rate and you get asked to be an LTA or a teacher?
Sounds like a good idea.
You know, I mean, they're not certified, so you're not getting anything extra from them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I realized, sometimes LTAs are hard to fill because of some of the positions that they are in.
I mean, is it easier right now just to kind of let's wait and see a little bit? Lisa, what do you think?
You mean just let the rate fly how it is
Yeah.
and then
Well,
see?
we have till January, right, to decide this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So they're already, I think that you've already approved the rates. So I think we do have until January or, just before January, and that will give us time to kind of see what the environment is like. And
I think
I
that's
think
a
it's a good idea.
okay. All right. So I'll just make a note to hold off until January and we'll revisit it then. Or we'll revisit it before that, like October or, so that you can approve it in November or December. Okay. All right. So we'll table that until October. Okay. Okay. So the next item on there is a fund balance update. And I have the auditor in here actually today and tomorrow. And we're finishing up. I think everything is recorded, but I never know until they find something that I haven't found. So right now we're actually looking at a fund balance. It's higher than we had anticipated before COVID, and it's about 7% is what we're looking at. So normally we have about 4%. So what I'll do for the next meeting after it's audited is give you the details of where the money came from, that if we had excess revenues. I can tell you just in the last week, the state settled the tuition rates where they take a couple years sometimes. So they weren't even paying us for the School of the Deaf students, which we have 2 of them there. So we're getting 2 of those rate adjustments for 2 years. So actually, they've added about $400,000 to our aid in the past week, which is not even reflected on their website yet. So I know we're gonna. I checked with the STAC person here and said, "Is that right?" And she said, "Yes, they haven't paid you anything for those students because they couldn't settle on a rate." So so that's part of it. But anyway, so our excess will be about 1.3 million. So you'll see later, well, the next item is the tax levy. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that. But what I did is I added, because we still don't have the information from the governor about the look back period. So we haven't been given any information about that. Tom, have you heard anything about that? Because I haven't. They haven't given us that.
To look back, there was a little discussion with NISCUS yesterday where nothing official, but they were saying that we should probably expect about 80% of our grant and aid, but nothing official.
Okay. So what we did is, we are doing the resolution, which is on the board agenda. I don't know if you can see it, but it's in your board packet for the tax resolution. So what I have in there is, that we have the regular language, you're allowed to retain 4%. And then in the resolution, I have that you will not retain in excess of 4%, with the exception that an amount in excess of 4% will be held in consideration of funding potential state aid loss. So we knew we were going to end with a little bit more, and then we have it written right in the resolution that we would use, the excess of 4% for if, the state aid take back. So, and we do expect that we're going to have some. So anyway, that covers us there. And then I think that was the plan at budget time, that we were going to use some of this excess that we knew that we were going to have so that we didn't have to go crazy cutting out, a lot of program and making a lot of changes. So, anyway, that's what we're doing with that. But the next time after it's audited, I will give you all the details, but it is going to end up being around 7%. So about 1.3 in excess of the 4. Okay. And as you can see, some of the things are being taken away now, like the truck and the, that grant and some of the other grants and things like that. So I think that will help us to stabilize this next year. You know, obviously we have the future, but that'll help us in the next year.
Hmm.
All right.
No, I think it's a foregone conclusion. There's going to be something. So I think the good news for us, which we were planning for, is that now we have the resources to do that without making punitive cuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really good news that we have a little more than we thought.
Yeah, and I think that's what we were hoping for. You know, it was hard to tell, but I think, you know, we've saved in transportation, certainly, utilities, things like that. And some of those are pretty hefty numbers. So, and then plus with the state giving us $400,000 that, you know, in the last week of July extra. I mean, we don't have it yet, but we can accrue it because they say they're going to give it to us. So,
Where are they getting that from?
We thought we were getting a truck too.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
still it's in your pocket, don't count it.
yeah,
Bird
that's
in the-
true.
That bird isn't in our hand quite yet, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And I
know,
know that
accrual
there's
is counting.
it could be a tough tax season too. And eventually, you know, we'll get it all from the county, I think, but I know that they're struggling too. So we kind of depend on them to make the taxes whole. So I think there's a lot
Yeah.
coming into play in this next year, and it's going to be nice to have that little cushion.
and
Yeah,
Tom,
it'll be definitely a trickle down effect here
yeah.
once they make the adjustments, because it's not just the school districts, it's the counties, the towns, cities.
20%
Yeah.
seems to be the number that we are hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
Of the foundation aid?
No, like for SUNY, they're expecting 20%.
Oh, okay. And I have heard that they already told the counties or, you know, like the townships that, you know, to expect a 20% cut. So I think we're the only ones that haven't really been told a number.
Well, SUNY hasn't been told, they're just expecting that.
Okay, okay. So anyway, we should be able to absorb it, you know, without having to cut a lot out. So that's good. All right, and then the next thing on there, do you have any questions about that or any other discussion with that?
Just quickly, so we did not pay Bernie last year from March on.
We
Yeah.
paid them. We paid them based on actual with some of the overhead for like Carl and things like that, but we certainly didn't pay them what the contract would have been.
Right. So what's our plan with Durham for the first month of the year now?
You know, we're gonna sort through that a little bit because he's afraid that he may lose people. So at some point, Lisa, in fact, we just spoke not too long ago. I think Brett and you and I should get together and kind of talk through this a little bit.
Okay. And we did talk a little bit about that, you know, before we had signed the contract and the bidding process. And I think I'll take a peek. There's something in the contract about 50% of the overhead. You know, they make some adjustments for the runs that they don't make, but that's just to hold them there. And we do want to hold them there. So eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we'll still be transporting to BOCES if BOCES makes a decision about their career and technical education, and hopefully New Visions might still run, you know, and you know, we'll certainly utilize them for food again.
Mhm.
So we'll talk through that for sure.
And they are going to Springbrook now, right?
Yeah,
They are, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So if we pay them, whatever's in the contract for the first month, is that aidable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we've sent all the paperwork to
Really?
SED, and they were, you know, they read through it. And we actually sent it before we approved them. I sent it to SED before that just to make sure that everything looked okay, and he said it did. So I think that they understand we need to retain them. So we have kind of covered ourselves there until they change the rules, but yeah.
You know, Lisa, isn't there some kind of a ridership percentage that goes into the formula though? And if there's no riders, what happens
Yes.
with that formula?
I can't answer that right now. I think that they're looking at that right now
Yeah,
too.
they are, Jamie, because especially with all this physical distancing stuff, they're trying to sort through that. In fact, the state encouraged us to reach out to our parents in order for them to self-transport. So
Right?
we're thinking that there'll be some sort of adjustment to that.
I mean, there has to be.
Yeah.
But I've been on the webinars for the transportation with Paul, who oversees the transportation unit at SED, and he's very nice, but he'll just say, I can't answer that right now. You know, we're talking about it. I can't answer it. So,
Has he given a number on a 66 passenger bus? Has he given a number of kids that you can have? I've heard different numbers. That's why.
Well, I mean, if you do it right, it's 11. But many school districts are putting one kid in every seat, which really is against those recommendations.
With a mask, right?
What's that?
With a mask, correct?
With a mask.
Yeah.
But they're,
Is that all fall in that, if practical, you know, kind of a consideration that was built into the language?
it did originally, and then the state came out 2 days later and clarified it and said students will be socially distanced on the school bus, except siblings can sit together. But yet, you know, not for nothing, I was looking at different school districts' plans. They have a kid in every seat, and Lawrence, I think, is putting 2 kids in every seat. I don't know. I mean, I gotta just, and it was funny because this came up at legal, but before that decision was made. But if some student contracts this illness and they find that they, you know, were doubling up kids in a seat, that opens Lawrence up to considerable liability. So I don't know. A lot of schools today in an email thread are thinking that they might change their plans and start remotely as well. So we'll have to see.
All right, so the next item on there is the tax cert update. And I had that way wrong, but anyway, you have the updated one. We are starting to get them in now. I mean, 'tis the season. They start, everybody got their assessment. And so we have another from UPS. That's, they did one last year that's not settled yet. And then the same one this year. Abner Doubleday, that's a frequent flyer too. And the Goodyear Lake Hydro has not been settled yet. And the Mountain View Mobile Home Park, we generally get that one every few years also. So these are the regulars that are coming in, and we'll probably see some more at this point. So they've all been sent to our attorney. I don't think any of them will be a lot or, you know, big cases other than the Abner Doubleday. That one is going to court. So, and that one was, the file I think was about this thick, and I'm not exaggerating. It was really, really big. So probably with all the business they lost this year too, they might get some more reduction to that. So that is with our attorney, but just to keep you updated, we're at about 56,000, as you can see from the corrected sheet. And we do have that in our tax cert reserve. So we're good with that. Okay. And now just to go through a couple things, the budget amendment for the state aided hardware. You may recall when we were at budget time, we took out the technology equipment, well, a lot of the equipment. Some of that equipment, and I didn't catch it, but about $28,000 of that equipment is state aidable. So we obviously want to leave that in we're gonna get the state aid on it. So we're just gonna do an adjustment there to get that back in so that we get the state aided hardware. So, and our BOCES refund, I know, is going to be higher than usual because they shut down too. So they already told us that they had some savings and that we could expect a bigger refund. So that line will be adjusted. And a lot of that has to do with technology anyway with the E-rate. So that just makes sense to do it that way.
What
So
kind of
that's,
things are aidable?
what's that?
What kind of things are aidable? The hardware.
It's just up to a certain amount. The, you know, the Chromebooks, the whatever we don't run through BOCES, that's technology. If we, that's coded in that technology code. So laptops, you know, monitors, anything like that. Chromebooks, any of that kind of equipment is aidable up to the $28,000. So we certainly want to, you know, take advantage. We don't want to lose that. So
Yeah.
When is the BOCES reimbursement? What
What's
time
that?
frame is, when is the time, what's the time frame on the BOCES adjustment?
we get that in the fall.
Oh, we do?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
Well,
we'll find out in the fall what that is, but we budgeted, I think, 107,000, and you know, we generally get a couple 100,000 from that.
Yep.
So,
Maybe
but
a
you never
little.
know, so we don't put a lot in there. So, but they did already tell us. Jenna already said that we would be getting more than, you know, normal because of the shutdown. So, okay. So the cafeteria budget is in there, and that's balanced at 577,000. The cafeteria budget is never balanced, and you know, it depends on what they do. I haven't heard that they're doing. Actually, I heard that they're not doing all the free, you know, the free and reduced. But when we were delivering it, anybody could get it, and you just check them off a list, and you got paid for it. So I don't think that they're doing that right now, or if they are, they haven't said that. And I guess that'll depend on how how schools are in session. If we have to take food to them, we probably will get reimbursed for all the kids. But right now, anyway, the budget is balanced. We ended the year with just under a $4,000 loss, which actually isn't that bad for the cafeteria. So we put $10,000 in of our money, of the general fund money. We put $10,000 against that, and after that, there was a just under a $4,000 loss. So that's not, it's really not that bad. And they have
We didn't feed anybody for 3 months.
what?
We didn't charge for lunch for 3 months.
Yeah. So, and they do have a $36,000 fund balance. So I know we did build into the budget. There was some equipment for carts and coolers and things like that in case we have to transport the food. But other than that, they thought they really didn't need a lot of equipment there.
Speaking of coolers, I know a number of coolers got donated. Are you going to need that again for the first month to deliver meals?
We might, but yeah, we'll have to see, because maybe we do invest in a few more of our own, because I think folks are going to be wanting theirs back, and they've been very, very patient.
In the cafeteria budget, that $5,000 equipment budget, he did ask for coolers.
Yeah.
You know, they might have been easier, you know, did they have wheels or something? They had something on them where it made them easier to transport, but that was part of their request. So that is part of the cafeteria budget. So yes, if we do that again, we will be purchasing some insulated coolers for them to take on the buses and things like that, or even around the hallways, you know, so that they have, you know, if we have different points where the kids will pick up their food, so they're not all in the cafeteria. They had asked for carts and these coolers so that they could be in different places, even if it's in the district, and still keep the food cool or hot, depending on what it is. The extended day budget is in there also. And what, I don't even know, you know, if or how we would run that program, but if we do, the budget is in there and it's with the current staffing, assuming that, you know, everything is the same. They know that they have to follow the social distance guidelines. Lisa Swen sent a plan to Tom. And again, we still don't know if we will run that program, but if we do, it will be at a slight loss next year, which will be absorbed by whatever they have in fund balance. That's not going to leave them with a lot because, as you recall, we paid the people for this year. And they will understand that next year that's not going to happen. They're only going to get paid for whatever they actually work, because the program can't, it's a parent paid, totally parent paid program, and they can't absorb that anymore. And we also wanted to leave the fee the same, knowing that some parents probably are struggling a little bit financially. So for next year, we're looking at leaving the fee the same. But people, if we do shut down, they're not going to get paid for the days that we're shut down. And they'll know that, they know that up front. So that's what we're doing, and it will make the program run at a loss of about $22,000 for next year. So what I've asked Lisa to do is, for this whole year, whoever's using the program or whenever we market the program, we just need to let people know to expect an increase in 21-22. There will be an increase in the fee in 21-22. So, but that gives them kind of a year to plan. And there hasn't been an increase in a really long time. It's still a really good deal, actually. It's $35 for the month for the morning and $85 for the afternoon. So, you know, it's really, it's the best deal in town, but we didn't want to increase the fee knowing that people are struggling right now. So that's reflected in that budget. I think I'm looking at the financial memorandum, the budget transfers are explained, and you might have one more set of those. And the other thing on there is Durham is working with the county, and they have agreed to pay us $1,000 a month to have those buses down there. So, which is way more than we were getting from Bernie for the same thing. So we were getting $2,500 a year, and now we'll get $1,000 a month. So, and if they add another contract, they'll pay us another $1,000 a month. So if they get any of the other contracts.
That's great.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that was all I had on the agenda. I don't know if there was anything else that we needed to discuss for the Finance Committee. No?
Nothing for me.
Okay. So I think we're set. We have the audit, so I should have all that information for you at the next meeting. Okay.
Great.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Okay.
good night.
Bye.
I know.